Welcome back to my little channel. Today I'm going to address Linda Sarsour, because not too long ago she talked about how a jihad was needed against America. Or well, maybe not against America, but against its president. So I looked into this and I dug a little deeper. So what does a jihad mean? And is this really what she should have asked? Now, criticism is always welcome, so please look at what I've got for you, and when you agree with me or disagree with me, please let me know why. And you know what? Before I start going on about Linda Sarsour, first let me show you a little explanation I found on what jihad really is.
In Islamic tradition, to any word, there's three meanings. There's a linguistic meaning, just what it means in language, and then there's a legal meaning, and then there's a customary meaning. The term jihad has all three aspects. Linguistically, it means to struggle. It comes from a root word which means to struggle, jihad. And then you have the jihad, the struggle against the self. And then finally you have what's martial jihad, the physical struggle against an oppressor or against an invader to the country.
Now, I am sure there are people out there who disagree with this, and they can prove me wrong. By all means, feel free to. But he did say that the third one was the customary one, right? Which is the military one, the jihad against an oppressor or an invader. And I do believe that Linda Sarsour called out on a jihad against Trump. I could be wrong on that, we'll go there in a second. But this is what I found whilst researching this. This is kind of funny.
There are people out there that stood up on Boko Haram, on terrorism, on 9/11. There are national Muslim organizations who continue day in and day out to put out statements. Is the media covering it? I don't have control over the media to cover these stories. And I don't have to prove to anyone that I am an American born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and that my parents chose to come to the United States from living under military occupation in Palestine. And you talk about going into a grocery store in Arlington, Virginia, because you speak Arabic and you understand the culture and that's where you get your credibility from. I understand the culture and I speak the language too. And I've never, ever walked into a grocery store or into a hookah lounge or into a community center or a mosque in this country where people were saying that they wanted to destroy America.
The clip I'm using is of a talk of Brigitte Gabriel with Linda Sarsour. And the both of them talked about whether it was necessary to, I don't know, look closer at Islam and Muslim terrorism and, in event, Muslims. Of course, Linda Sarsour felt that was not the case because she never heard any Muslim talk about attacking America. Why, oh why, did I put this clip here first? I'll show you now.
And I hope that when we stand up to those who oppress our communities, that Allah accepts from us that as a form of jihad, that we are struggling against tyrants and rulers, not only abroad in the Middle East or in the other side of the world, but here in these United States of America, where you have fascists and white supremacists and Islamophobes reigning in the White House.
So Linda Sarsour is asking for people to stand up in a jihad against fascists, white supremacists and Islamophobes in the White House. Now, what sort of jihad would she have meant? Not the normal struggle, because you're not actually having to deal with it on a daily basis, therefore you're not having to deal with the struggle of someone somewhere else being an Islamophobe. Jihad can also mean the struggle against yourself. Do you need to struggle against yourself because someone else is an Islamophobe, a white nationalist, or a racist? No, you don't need to struggle against yourself. Unfortunately, that then would mean that there is only the third option. Jihad means the struggle against an oppressor or an invader, which is often military, as explained earlier. And What's even worse is that she herself said she never heard anyone say anything like this. And here she does it in a speech which is being recorded and broadcasted. This is the double standard of, unfortunately, several Muslims out there. And not all Muslims are bad. Seriously, I'm not even joking on this. Most Muslims are good people. They want to live good lives. But people like Linda Sarsour, I'm not so sure if she's good people. Let me listen to another piece with you. Let's see how this will go.
We have to stay organizing. We have to stay outraged. Do not criticize me when I say that we as a Muslim community in these United States of America have to be perpetually outraged every single. When I wake up in the morning and I remember who's sitting in the White House, I am outraged.
Now, this is the same woman that will tell us how Islam is great for women, and maybe that's also why she's always perpetually outraged, as she said herself. And maybe in that case, jihad could mean a personal struggle for her so that she stops being outraged at nearly nothing. I saw this clip of a woman who was triggered on everything. It seems Linda Sarsour has the same problem. But at the same time, Linda Sarsour is shouting out to the world that she is outraged, and she's trying to get people to share in her being outraged. And she calls for a jihad, the struggle, but not the struggle against her outrage. Or rather, not the struggle against her being outraged, but the struggle against the cause of her outrage. Which, in all fairness, she claimed was the White House. To me, that sounds like she's declaring a war on the White House. How come no one talked to her yet? Because this is some serious traitor shit. Then again, I'm just a white guy in the middle of nowhere, so what do I know? Let's listen back to what those three pieces of jihad could mean, shall we?
Linguistically, it means to struggle. It comes from a root word which means to struggle, jihad. And then you have the jihad, the struggle against the self. And then finally you have what's martial jihad, the physical struggle against an oppressor or against an invader to the country.
Well, it's clear to me that Linda Sarsour doesn't like the President of America, even though he's democratically elected. No, he's no good. And it could be because she's a feminist and she hates him, or it could be because of his Muslim ban and she hates him. Never mind the fact that the Muslim ban never is or was a Muslim ban. It was only a ban on certain nationalities. After all, people from Indonesia, still welcome. 98% of Indonesia, Muslim. So it's not a Muslim ban. Never mind that, I get sidetracked, I'm sorry. What was I going to say? It could be that she doesn't like Donald Trump because she's a feminist and all feminists seem to hate Donald Trump. Or it could be because she's a Muslim and she thinks that this is a good reason to dislike Donald Trump as well. Unfortunately though, the only way her jihad would make sense if it would be a struggle against an oppressor. In a way, you could see this as a call to arms. To me, that is a negative thing. That is a scary thing. We need to stop letting people like this dictate the discussion. There are plenty of Muslims out there that recognize that there's a problem within Islam, and not all Muslims are bad people. Hell, if you look at some of the things of Islam, they're not that bad. Just like every religion has its good and its bad sides, there are good things within Islam as well. Too bad that there are so many bad things in Islam. And somehow criticizing Islam will only make the situation worse, because moderate Muslims are not allowed to speak. Because if a moderate Muslim criticizes Islam, they are considered to be apostates. And an apostate doesn't have a good time. And as she herself has said as well. Let me see if I can find it. 1 second.
We have to stay outraged. Do not criticize me when I say that we as a Muslim community in these United States of America have to be perpetually outraged every single day. When I wake up in the morning and I remember who's sitting in the White House, I am outraged.
So yeah, is she there as a Muslim telling other Muslims how to think, or is she there as a feminist telling other people how to think? Because it does really sound like listen and believe, right? Do not criticize her when she is outraged, because she has every right to be outraged, no matter where she bases it on. It doesn't matter. She has the right to be outraged. And she's talking to Muslim Americans, who she, by the way, at any time calls Muslim, but never once calls Americans. She basically pushes them to think in a certain way. She is very much against the idea that Muslims in America should be Americans first. No, they should be Muslims first. And if they're not, then what's the problem with that, Linda? Do you have an answer? Or do you think that shouldn't happen at all?
Our number one and top priority is to protect and defend our communities. It is not to assimilate.
Yep, it's not the top priority to assimilate. Just to recap, she's outraged, she calls a jihad on the White House, and she feels Muslims should not assimilate in America. I'm not sure how this isn't treason, to be honest. I mean, she's very happy that she lives in New York, and she's very happy that she lives in a country where she can say whatever the hell she wants to say. Let's ignore the fact that if she were in Palestine, she couldn't say any of these things. Or let's say Afghanistan, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia. Never mind that. No, but she's in America. She feels like she's an American. But at the same time, other Muslims in America, they shouldn't want to assimilate. No, they should stay Muslims. She herself, no, she should stay Muslim. She's not an American. She just lives there. Because priority number one is be a good Muslim. And all the other things, She's talking about division within the country. She's talking on how she feels a jihad on the White House is needed. And she's outraged. Perpetually outraged. This is, in my humble opinion, a problem. Linda Sarsour, in my humble opinion, is a problem. Not because she's a Muslim. I mean, there are plenty of good Muslims out there. But she's one of the bad ones. Anyway, like, share and subscribe if you feel so inclined. I am more than looking forward to any of your criticism. Let me know what you think and I will respond. Have a good day.